It's kind of funny when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, we're absolutely swimming in best practices for building great products.
Oh, totally. Endless articles, frameworks.
Yeah, courses promising the secret sauce. And yet, you look around and, well, if it was all that simple, wouldn't product success be, like, way more common? What are we missing?
That's the million-dollar question, right? You'd think with all that information out there, hitting home runs with products would be the standard, not the exception.
Exactly. And Shreyas Doshi over at CRED, he kind of pins it down, says that missing link, the thing that really separates the teams that get it consistently, it boils down to something called product thinking.
Product thinking. Yeah, you hear that phrase tossed around a lot. And like anything important, there's, more to it than just the buzzword.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we want to unpack today for you listening.
Think of this as your deep dive into what product thinking really means for you. Whether you're, pretty experienced and looking for a new angle, or maybe just starting out in this whole product world, we're going to break it down.
Yeah, we've been digging into insights from folks like the co-founder of Instagram, the team at Silicon Valley Product Group, lots of really sharp product leaders.
Yeah. So our mission today, really nail down what product thinking is, and maybe just as importantly, what it isn't. Clear up some common mix-ups. Look at how you actually build this skill, and maybe even how it pops up in product interviews. Sound good?
Let's do it. Okay, so this whole product thinking idea, what is it, really? At its core, it's a continuous process, right?
Okay.
You're constantly trying to figure out what problems customers actually have.
The real problem.
Exactly. And then finding solutions that, work for them, but also make sense for the business. And of course, you got to understand what's actually possible with the tech you have.
So definitely not just, like, throwing features at the wall and seeing what sticks.
No, definitely not.
It's about shipping actual value, not just ticking boxes on a feature list. I think UXPin mentioned that, constantly asking, does this really solve a problem?
Yeah.
Will people actually use it? And is it good for them and for us, the company? Seems like a decent filter.
It's a great filter. It forces you to be intentional. And this is where you really see the difference between product thinking and like a project mindset.
Okay. Project mindset versus product thinking. What's the key difference there?
Well, project mindset is super focused on delivering specific outputs.
Yeah.
Hit these features, launch this version, stay on time, on budget, done.
Right. Check the box. Move on.
Exactly. Product thinking. It's broader. It's about the whole journey. Building something, managing it so it keeps delivering value, adapting as things change. Users, the market, whatever.
Okay, I like that distinction. It's almost like project thinking is building the house to spec, but product thinking is making sure it's a great home for the people living there now and, 5 years from now.
That's a really good way to put it, actually. And it means understanding a few key things and how they connect. You've got your users. Who are they? What do they really need? Then there's the tech. What can we actually build? What are the limits? Maybe what's coming next.
Okay.
And finally, the business goals. What are we trying to achieve as a company? Product thinking kind of lives in that sweet spot where all three overlap.
Right, the intersection. And it always comes back to solving real problems, doesn't it? IXDF really hit on that building stuff that actually means something to people, adds value.
Exactly. Not just because you can build it, but because it fills a genuine need.
Yeah.
And that usually starts with really getting who your audience is and what their actual underlying problems are. Once you've got that, then you build your strategy, figure out your objectives.
It's like being a detective almost, gathering clues about user struggles, then figuring out the smartest way to help.
Totally.
Speaking of uncovering needs, Mike Krieger, co-founder of Instagram, he told this great story about their first app, Bourbon. Remember Bourbon?
Vaguely, yeah. Location sharing photos, something like that.
Exactly. Kind of like Foursquare, but with pictures and stuff. But Krieger said, it was okay. But it wasn't really taking off like they wanted. So they had to step back, really look hard at it, strip away the features people weren't using, and figure out what was working. And the core thing people like, just taking photos, sharing them easily, connecting that way.
The simple photo sharing.
Yeah, that insight led them to pivot, simplify, and bam, Instagram.
That's a perfect example of product thinking in action. They didn't just stubbornly stick to the plan. They watched their users, saw what they actually valued.
Even if it wasn't the main point initially.
Right. They found that core problem, simple visual sharing, and built something laser-focused on that. Not the bells and whistles, the core need.
Okay, so that helps define what product thinking is. But maybe just as important is clearing up what it isn't. Seems like there are a few common traps or misunderstandings.
Oh, definitely.
One that jumped out at me was around MVP, minimum viable product. Everyone loves that acronym.
Yes, the MVP. Marty Kagan and others have pointed out, quite rightly, that the P for product causes a lot of confusion.
How so?
People hear product and think it always means something polished, sellable, ready for prime time from day one.
But that's often not the goal, especially early on, right? When you're just exploring.
Exactly. In that early discovery phase, what you're often building is more like, well, prototypes, quick things, maybe rough, to test ideas, learn from users.
Okay.
The goal isn't necessarily sales right away. It's learning, validating assumptions, getting insights. A real product is something you stand behind, sell, support long-term. That distinction's key.
Prototype is the sketch, product is the finished painting. Got it.
Nicely put.
Okay, another area that seems a bit fuzzy sometimes is the difference between, say, optimization and discovery, especially with things like A/B testing.
Right. Optimization is, small tweaks to something that already exists. Low-risk changes. Maybe changing button text, a headline, trying to nudge conversion up a tiny bit.
Little improvements.
Yeah. Discovery, that's much bigger. Exploring totally new ideas, maybe different value props. The potential upside is bigger, but so is the risk.
So you probably wouldn't A/B test some wild brand new concept on half your users like you would a button color.
Goodness, no, that could be messy. As Kagan points out, for discovery tests, you might show it to like 1% of users, maybe even less.
Wow, tiny fraction.
Yeah, the goal is learning without breaking things for everyone if the idea flops. It's a different mindset, these different testing approaches.
Okay, makes sense. Small tweaks for optimizing, careful experiments for discovery. Now, another thing, Shreyas Doshi mentioned this idea that product thinking means your first launch has to be like perfect.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge trap. Teams get paralyzed trying to achieve some mythical, perfect V1. It causes delays, over-analysis. Nothing gets shipped.
So what's the alternative?
Doshi says, quite wisely, I think, that the quality bar for your first launch should match your goal for that launch. Are you just trying to get early adopters, learn what works, prove the tech?
Or maybe just prove the team can actually ship something.
Yeah, sometimes that's actually the goal. It's a good reminder. Perfection is the enemy of progress, especially early on.
Right. And speaking of shipping, Doshi also warned about just churning out features, especially during hypergrowth, without really knowing the impact or how you're differentiating.
That's so critical. When things are growing fast, the pressure is just more features, more.
Yeah.
Satisfy everyone.
Yeah, keep feeding the beast.
But real product thinking then is about focus. What actually creates a sustainable advantage over the competition? What makes you stand out? Double down on that. Don't just build everything.
So it's not about having more features, but the right ones, the ones that give you an edge.
Precisely. A defensible edge.
Okay, one last clarification maybe. The lines between product management, project management, design, they can get blurry. Marty Kagan had thoughts here.
Yes, and it still trips people up. Collaboration is vital, obviously, but product management is distinct. It's definitely not just project management.
How so?
A project manager focuses on execution. Timelines, resources, getting things delivered.
Yeah.
The product manager, they're focused on the what and the why. Driving the strategy, understanding the business outcomes, figuring out what needs building in the first place.
Right, the business value, the user value, not just hitting deadlines. And design, where does that fit?
Also crucial, also collaborative, but different focus. Design is primarily about the user experience. The look, the feel, usability. The product manager has that broader view, UX, yes, but also business viability, tech feasibility, the market.
Okay.
Kagan famously compared the product manager role to being like the CEO of their product.
Whoa, CEO, that's a lot.
It is. Like a CEO, you need to grasp the whole business. Financials, marketing, sales, legal stuff, competition.
Yeah.
Everything. You're accountable for the product's success.
Even if you're not technically the boss of the engineers or designers?
Exactly. You don't usually have direct authority, so you need to influence, lead, collaborate effectively with everyone involved.
Okay, that really clears up some of the what it's not stuff. So let's shift gears. How do we actually get better at this? How do we develop these skills? Where do you even start?
Well, number one, absolutely foundational. Pretty much everyone agrees.
Okay.
Deeply understand your users, your customers. And Kagan was really strong on this. It means direct interaction. He told a story about having to do like 30 customer visits before making any big product calls early in his career.
30. Wow. That sounds intense. But it makes the point, right?
It's
Get
nice.
out of the building.
Absolutely. You can't just rely on reports or analytics. You need that empathy, that firsthand understanding of their pain points. See the world their way.
And data still matters, though, right? Analytics.
Oh, for sure. It's both. Talk to people, yes, but also dig into the data. User analytics, what are they actually doing? Sales data, what's driving revenue? Data warehouse dives for deeper trends. Good product thinkers live in that data.
So it's that combo platter, the qualitative why from talking to people and the quantitative what from the numbers.
Exactly. You need both for the full picture.
What else is key for building that product thinking muscle?
Deep knowledge of your industry and domain. You got to know the competitive landscape, who's out there. What are they doing well or badly? Keep up with trends, tech shifts, immerse yourself.
So be an expert in your space.
Yeah, and in your own company, too. Understand how your product actually works technically, but also sales, marketing, support, finance. Kagan said you need that holistic view of how your product fits into the whole business.
Right, connecting all the dots. Shreya's Doshi also talked about something called simulation skill. What's that about?
Yeah, interesting concept. Simulation skill, as he puts it, is like the ability to mentally play things out.
Yeah.
To imagine how users might react to different solutions, predict what might work best to get the outcome you want.
Running what-if scenarios in your head.
Kinda, yeah. Trying to anticipate consequences. Doshi says some people are naturally better at it, but it's definitely a skill you can develop.
Okay, so how do you get better at predicting user behavior? Seems tricky.
Well, Doshi suggests a few things. First, be super clear on the outcome you want. Then, actively simulate different ways to get there. Think through how users might respond to each path. And crucially, watch users interact with your product. Actually observe them. That's where you see where your mental simulations were right or wrong. It helps you calibrate.
So you test your mental models against reality. Makes sense. Are there more like concrete tools or frameworks people can use?
Definitely. Teresa Torres' stuff, the opportunity tree, opportunity assessment, those are great for pushing you beyond just feature requests.
How so?
They help you map out the actual user problems and needs, explore different ways to solve them before you jump to designing a specific feature. It ensures you're focused on the core opportunity.
Taking that step back, looking at the bigger picture first.
Exactly. And Marty Kagan really emphasized generating deep insights, too, about users, the market, new tech. He said these insights are the foundation of strategy.
Insights. Those aha moments.
Yeah. But they don't just happen. Kagan stresses it takes real effort, deep thinking, not just reading market reports.
Yeah.
And he also noted engineers are often key here, spotting and prototyping enabling tech that opens up new possibilities.
Right. It's definitely a team sport. And the whole thing has to be iterative, doesn't it? Learn, adapt, repeat.
Absolutely fundamental. Product thinking isn't a one-shot deal. It's a cycle. Understand the problem, hypothesize solutions, build, test, learn rigorously, refine, always learning, always iterating.
And for that initial understand the problem phase, are there specific frameworks?
Yeah, some helpful ones. The classic 5W1H, who, what, when, where, why, how. Great for digging into the specifics of a problem,
Yeah.
finding root causes.
Okay.
And the jobs to be done framework is powerful too. What job is the user actually trying to accomplish when they use your product or competitors? What's the underlying need?
Those sound like good ways to make sure you're solving the right problem. What about when you're actually brainstorming solutions? Any frameworks there?
Yeah, you can think of those as solutions frameworks. They give you different angles. Like how could you minimize your offering or maximize it?
Okay.
Could you transform it, combine things, modify or rearrange parts, substitute something? They just help spark different kinds of ideas.
Like a creative toolkit for getting unstuck. I also saw something about the 4us.
Ah, yeah. The 4, unworkable, unavoidable, urgent, underserved, that's more for evaluating the problem itself. Is the current way truly unworkable for people? Is the problem unavoidable? Is it urgent? Are they looking for a fix now? And are the current solutions really underserved? If you get strong yes answers there, you're likely onto a meaningful problem worth solving.
That's a neat checklist for prioritizing. And we mentioned qual and quant data earlier. Seems like you really need both working together.
Absolutely essential. Quant tells you what is happening where users click, where they drop off, but it doesn't tell you why.
Right.
That's where qualitative comes in, interviews, observation. It gives you the context, the motivations, the frustrations behind the numbers. You need to weave them together.
Okay, this is super helpful. We've covered what it is, what it isn't, how to develop it. But there's one more piece, especially for folks looking for roles, product thinking in interviews. What are interviewers looking for there?
Yeah, good point. Basically, they want to see if you can approach problems like a product person. Can you identify the core issue? Do you think about user needs?
Mm-hmm.
Can you propose solutions, but also consider the business side, the tech constraints? They're testing your strategic, holistic thinking.
So it's less about finding the single correct answer to some hypothetical question.
Exactly. It's much more about your process.
Yeah.
How do you break down the problem? What questions do you ask? What trade-offs do you consider?
The kind of questions might they ask?
Could be anything, really.
Yeah.
Analyze this existing product. How would you improve it? Or here's a hypothetical scenario, maybe like Shreya's Doshi's example.
Mm-hmm.
Why do people behave differently in airports? There's no one right answer there.
Right. It's designed to see how you think, how you consider different angles, human motivations, the environment.
Exactly. Can you put on that product thinking hat?
So if you're in an interview facing these questions, what's key?
Ask clarifying questions. Don't just jump to an answer. Make sure you understand the problem, the context. Show you can think about different users, different needs.
Okay.
Think about impact. Consider trade-offs. And crucially, explain your reasoning. Why are you suggesting this approach? Walk them through your thought process.
So showcase the thinking, not just the final answer. Show how you handle ambiguity.
Precisely. They want to see if you have that fundamental mindset, those core skills of a strong product thinker.
This has been fantastic. It really drives home that product thinking isn't just some buzzword. It's like fundamental to building things that actually work and matter.
Absolutely. And it's crucial for anyone involved in making products, no matter their specific title or how long they've been doing it. It's about being obsessed with the user, smart about the business, and relentlessly focused on solving real problems.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment. Think about how these ideas apply to your own work, or even just the products you use every day. Start looking at things through that product thinking lens.
Yeah, maybe a final thought to mull over. How could really leaning into product thinking shift things for you or your team? Moving from just shipping features to creating truly valuable experiences. What's one small step you could take, maybe even today, to start embracing that mindset more fully?